Call Me By Your Name. It's the big juggernaut of all the award shows right now. But do I think it's any good? Let's find out. Hey, what's up, you guys? Film Fan 0599 here again. And today we're going to review Call Me By Your Name. So Call Me By Your Name stars Timothy Cummins and Armie Hammer, and what this film is basically about. It's about, this 17-year-old kid. What happens is that this man named Oliver comes to stay with him and his family for a couple of weeks because, Oliver needs to help his father out with some things. And him and Oliver start having a good friendship with each other. But here's the thing, that friendship starts, developing more than just a friendship. So, what did I think of Call Me By Your Name? Now, going into this movie, I was actually interested. Mainly because, the movie was getting some high praise. Like I said, it's been really a juggernaut at a lot of these award shows as of late. And I was like, hopefully I like this movie. I am interested in seeing what they could do with this film. And, I hate being that one guy, that one guy that, when everybody's like, oh, this movie is so amazing, oh, I love it, and then I'm the one guy that's like, yeah, it's okay, it's okay at best, trust me, I hate being that guy, but unfortunately, I have to be that guy with this movie, because I didn't really enjoy this movie all that much. It's kind of boring, honestly. It's not a bad film by any means to me. It's just, my biggest issues with it is that I didn't find the characters all that interesting, and the story was uninteresting too. That's my biggest problems with this movie, and that's what really takes me out of enjoying this film and really being interested in seeing this, this teenager going through, confusion and, finding out things about himself that he didn't know about. I just think, it just wasn't executed the best. I thought they could have done better with it, and just the way that was told in this movie, I just thought, it just didn't work all that well for me. But I do have positives. There are things I do like with this movie, so let's get into those positives. First being the acting with the film. The acting is actually very good with this movie. I do think the acting is pretty solid with the movie. I will admit, I don't think it's some of the best acting I've ever seen or anything like a lot of people have been saying, but it was very good. I did think a lot of the actors were very good in this movie. Timothy Cummins was really good. I did enjoy him in the film. He did a pretty solid job with his performance. I did think he was really good. Armie Hammer's really good too. I really liked him in the movie. This is probably his best performance to date. I did enjoy him a lot in this film. And, Armie Hammer was an actor that I've always really liked. But, some people never really liked him. So I'm glad that this movie is now kind of, letting people take him a little bit seriously now. So, yeah, he was very good in the movie. I did think he did a good job. But I think the person that gives the best performance in this film, actually, is the man that plays the father. I think he was really who plays, Timothy Cummins' character's father. And he was great. I really loved him in this movie, actually. I really did. He gave the best performance in the entire film to me. And he was my favorite character, honestly. And he has the best scene in the entire film as well. If you've seen the movie, you know what scene I'm talking about. And he was great. I really loved him a lot in this movie. And I thought, honestly, he gave the best performance in the entire film. So, yeah, he was great. So, yeah, the acting overall, I do think is pretty solid. I will admit, it does handle those themes like I mentioned before, solid for the most part, really. I do think they do handle those themes, kind of good, you know what I mean? I do think about, him being confused and, just questioning things about himself. I do think those themes are, pretty well thought out in the movie, and, they are executed pretty solidly in the film. It's just, I felt like, I'll get more into it when I talk about my negatives, but I do think the way that they do handle those type of situations in the movie are pretty well handled, actually. I do condemn the filmmakers for doing well with those type of themes. I do think Timothy Common and Armie Hammer do have chemistry. I will say that. They do have chemistry with each other. They do play off of each other well, and I will admit they do actually have some pretty good chemistry with each other. The writing isn't too bad with the movie, actually. I do think the writing is pretty solid with the film, and the directing's really good, too. I did think the movie had some pretty solid directing. Like, it's very well shot, editing's pretty solid, and cinematography is really good, too. So I will admit, Call Me By Your Name does have some very good directing. Now the negatives, because there are a bit of negatives that I do have with this film. And first being, like I said, the acting necessarily isn't bad. Like I said, the performances are good. It's just the characters themselves are very uninteresting. Like, I really did the only character, like I said, I felt like I, was interested in was the father. That's about it. That was really the only character in this movie that I had any interest in. Everyone else, like, just wasn't that interesting to me. Like, I really didn't think the characters weren't all that interesting. I thought the development for them actually was kind of poor, honestly. Like, I felt like they just didn't develop these characters all that well. And it just didn't make me care about, honestly, with their relationship, because just their characters weren't developed all that well, and I just didn't care. Like, I really didn't care for the characters, honestly, in this movie. And that kind of leads me into my next problem as well. Like I said, the story. The story isn't all that engaging with this movie, to be completely honest with you. I was not invested, to be honest with you, with this movie, with the story, honestly. I found it to be very uninteresting. Like, it has its interesting moments here and there, but overall, I do think it's just very disinteresting. Honestly, I really didn't feel like nothing was keeping me engaged for the most part, honestly, because the characters were uninteresting, and just the movie, just the story just didn't click, honestly. It just wasn't working for me. I was just like, you could do this in a much better, you really could. Like, I feel like this story could have been much better, like, well handled, honestly, but I just felt like just the way that they did it in this movie just wasn't that great, and I really wasn't that interested. And then the next problem I do have with the movie is that like I said, with the poor character development, I didn't really care for the relationship, honestly, between Timothy Common and Armie Hammer. Like I said, the actors do actually have some good chemistry with each other, but just when you build, like, their relationship with each other and stuff like that, I just don't think it was all that well built. And when, they do kind of be in, like, a nice relationship with each other, I don't care, because it's just not that well developed to me. And that's my main problem, because that's the main thing that's driving this movie, and I just don't care. And it's making me very bored and uninterested. And this movie does follow cliches of, like, romance movies and stuff like that. I'm just like, oh, come on now. There are some really kind of just sappy moments in this movie that I was just like, okay. Like, they do follow a couple of those cliches you would see in romance movies. They do at points in this movie. There are some points where I do feel like they do follow the cliches of other romance movies. I'm just like, oh boy. But, also, like I said, it's just, I felt like, also some of the writing, like I said, the writing was pretty solid, honestly, for the most part, but there are some times where I just felt like the dialogue was like, really? Like, you know what I mean? Like, just, also, we also fall on things just drag out way too long sometimes. Like, there are some scenes in this movie that I felt like could have been cut, honestly. Like, I'm like, we are dragging this out way too much. You know what I mean? Like, there are just some points where, like, there's just sometimes scenes of, like, them just swimming in the pool, or, just walking around and stuff like that. I'm just like, how is this supposed to be interesting? Now, I'm not saying you can't make scenes like those interesting. You know, I've seen plenty of movies do that before, but just the way that's handled in this movie is just, it drags out. Like, it's just, I feel like we just need something to drag out the story, and just something to just, you know, drag out this movie, honestly. That's just what I felt like with, like, scenes like those. Honestly, I felt like they just weren't developing anything, they were just dragging scenes out. That's all I felt like. You know, with, like, movies like, recently that I've seen, like, Lady Bird and stuff like that, you know, they do have kind of those scenes where people are just talking and stuff like that, but here's the thing, I was engaged in that movie because I cared for the characters in that movie, and I thought it was just very much more well handled in that movie, honestly, and it didn't feel like it was dragging on, like scenes were dragging on in that movie. I felt like almost every scene in that movie mattered. In this, it's just, it drags out, honestly. Like, I'm like, there's some points where it could just be cut down. I'm just like, really? Honestly, so yeah, and that leads me into my last problem with the movie. The movie is so boring. It really is. This movie just drags on forever and ever. It felt like 3 hours, honestly. This movie is 2 hours and 12 minutes, yet it felt like 3 hours. And I was just like, can we move it along a bit? That's what I really felt. I was like, just move it along, honestly. Like, it drags out so much, this movie. It really does. It really drags out, honestly. I'm just like, just kind of get to the point, honestly. Like, I really was like that at a lot during this movie. I was just like, get to the point already. It's just dragging out forever. So yeah. Overall, Call Me By Your Name is a movie that I didn't necessarily hate. It's not a bad film by any means, but I really do think it's really overrated. I think people are really overpraising this really too much, because, you know, if you like the movie, that's completely fine with me. I'm not here to, you know, change your opinion on the film or anything, but for me, I didn't care for this movie, honestly, with its poor character development and its poor story, honestly. That's just not that well handled, honestly, to be completely honest with you. I do think a story like this could be very good, but it's just the way that it's handled in this movie, it's not that great to me. So, yeah, overall, I really did enjoy Call Me By Your Name. So, Sci-Fi official grade on Call Me By Your Name, and my official grade on Call Me By Your Name is a C. It's alright. I didn't think the movie was all that great, to be honest with you. There are definitely way better movies, honestly, to me, that should be getting more award recognition, but, you know, this overrated movie is instead. But, you know, but like I said, if you enjoy the movie, fine, whatever, you know, it's your opinion, it's what you think. But for me, honestly, just kind of forgettable, honestly, and it was just came off as a typical Oscar bait movie to me, honestly. It really kind of did. So yeah, definitely deserves a C. So, if you guys have seen Call Me By Your Name, what did you think of it? Leave in the comment section below. I'm FilmFan0599, and we will see you all later. Peace.